Well, namaste everyone and a good evening, or really it's a very early good morning from here in Dubai. We're about 15 kilometers away from the Sharjah Cricket Ground, where we saw history this evening back at the team hotel, and I've just taken a little bit of time to reflect upon one of the most historic performances on one of the most historic and halcyon days for Nepali cricket. The stuff of dreams tonight, the inaugural Unity Cup match has opened with a win that Nepal will not forget in a month that they will never be able to forget for the country. I don't really know exactly how I'm going to be able to encapsulate it all, but I thought we would have a little bit of a run through the match and talk about what we kind of saw this evening, the emotions that everyone who was there felt, the amazing crowd and how they contributed towards it, and the heroes on the pitch and off the pitch for Nepal in what was, well, very well deserved 1-0 series lead. They have not just beaten the West Indies and taken in what I believe is their 181st official international between T20Is and one-day internationals, their first ever win over a full member nation. Of course, an awful lot of those have been against their fellow associates, but having come ever so close, probably most heartbreakingly last year at the T20 World Cup in St. Vincent with that one-run defeat to South Africa, and indeed that really close call against Bangladesh when they had them in all sorts of trouble. I think they were 75 for 8 and maybe 85 for 9 in that match, but they came up short with the bat then in very tricky batting conditions in St. Vincent. All of those near misses have been put to bed, and the monkey is very much off the back now for Nepal, and I really think it's probably the start of something incredibly special. We've spoken about this journey that cricket in Nepal is taking, and indeed the associate game is taking in more recent times. And I think tonight is not just a win for Nepal and for everyone in the country and the diaspora all around the world, but also I think it's a real win for associate cricket. I won't quite be able to do justice to the same beautiful words that Rohit Paudel said to me in the post-match presentation, dedicating the win and indeed his Player of the Match award to all of those martyrs who lost their lives in the Gen Z protests and all of the tragedies that have occurred across Nepal earlier in the month. But he was very much not just at huge pains to point out the importance of paying tribute to those people, but also the brighter future ahead for the country, and indeed driven by this most magnificent young cricket team. I also think it's a massive win for associate cricket. Throughout the Asia Cup, I was watching an awful lot of that. We saw, remember, that's an Asia Cup that Nepal did not qualify for on merit, missing out in the ACC Premier last year in Oman and using a third place playoff game to Hong Kong, but Hong Kong ever so nearly beat Sri Lanka. I thought if they'd held their catches up in Abu Dhabi they would have won. Oman nearly pulled off the unthinkable, beating the unbeatable Indian side and playing brilliantly and really raising the spirits of what's been a difficult 12 months or so for them in some ways for their cricket, but quite brilliant performance. And then also for the UAE, I thought against Pakistan in that game that was delayed, if they could have just closed out that first innings, they could well have tasted victory over a full member. Of course, they've done it plenty themselves, but for Nepal it was all about them today, and their time is very much now. I think they'll be thinking of a series win too in this Unity Cup. We might have a full run through the game. I've had to pour myself a little, I don't quite have my hot lemon, ginger and honey that I love when I'm in Kathmandu, but I've got a little peppermint tea, and as I drink this over the course of the next 10 minutes or so, I'll just give you a few of my thoughts from what was a really special day. It didn't quite have the same drama, remarkably, as so many Nepal wins have, and if you haven't read it yet, I would recommend reading a brilliant article by Paul Radley of the national newspaper. He spoke to Stuart Law in a sit-down interview, I think 2 or 3 days before the start of this historic series, and Stuart Law was really trying to get across how much he would like his team to lose that nickname or that tag of the Cardiac Kids. I think it would rob us of one of the great nicknames in the history of world cricket, one of the great nicknames in world sport. There is so much meaning and beauty behind the affectionate nickname of the Cardiac Kids. They never fail to raise our pulses and bring huge levels of drama, and I thought the way in which Stuart Law described it was incredibly clever. He spoke about how the reason that the nickname works so well is that we probably get a little bit carried away, a bit overexcited at points, even when we're in very strong and winning positions. But that was probably the most remarkable thing about the victory tonight. in Sharjah. The fact that they did it in some ways with the minimum of fuss. You could make an argument when they lost Kushal Bhurtel and Asif Sheikh early, and were in a bit of trouble at 12 for 2, that Nepal, they looked nervous. Stuart Law said to me at the halfway stage that he thought 148 was a very good score, but I felt the crowd was nervous. I think fans took a little while to filter in, and there was just a nervous energy, understandably, on such a big occasion for cricket in Nepal. So yeah, both Bhurtel and Sheikh got low scores. I'm not sure Bhurtel's shot against the arm ball from Akil Hussain was the greatest, coming down the track and attempting to cut him. He's very, very difficult to cut. But then the way in which Rohit Paudel and Kushal Malla, what a great decision to recall that young man. And I think they're reaping the rewards of giving him the captaincy. I thought he captained Chitwan brilliantly at the inaugural Nepal Premier League last year. He's grown in stature in a big, big way. His game has evolved. He can take a little bit more time now, but he still has that power hitting, that X factor, 2 4s and 2 6s for him. He made 30 off 21. He was actually the aggressor in the partnership with Rohit Paudel. He took a little while longer to get going. He made 38, and they put on altogether 58 between them to get the score up to 70 for 3. Malla, Perish looking for another big one. I thought the leg spinner on debut for the West Indies, Navin Bidaisee, bowled really wonderfully well. I think he's a tremendous young talent, and he's got such a good googly. Dipender Singh Airee did not pick it and should have been bowled by it. I think he finished with 3 for 29 from his 4. And Jason Holder was simply marvellous, 4 for 20. I just saw a stat there today. I think he's taken more wickets than anyone in the world in T20 cricket this year. He's a fantastic servant, one of the greatest servants of the modern era of West Indian cricket, and his name will be up there in the echelons of all of the greats of the days gone by. Lara, Richards, Gale et al. But his 4 for 20, that really kind of helped give the West Indies the momentum towards the end of that first innings and restrict Nepal to what I think us in the commentary box, from discussions with Ian Bishop and Carlos Brathwaite, we felt it was maybe 15 or 20 shy of what Nepal might need or might have wanted, given that the average first innings score there at Sharjah in the last year is 179. It's generally been quite a high scoring venue. But Stuart Law, like I said, when I went down for the flash interview at the halfway stage, he said he felt the ball was stopping in the surface a little bit, and he thought that his combination of spinners and all of the different bowling options that Rohit Paudel is blessed with were going to give him a real chance. Akil Hussain bowled very well as well with his 4 overs, 1 for 18. And then really every aspect of the second innings basically steadily and then very heavily went in Nepal's favour. It was no surprise to see the first wicket fall to an outstanding piece of fielding. It came from Kushal Bhurtel, who is so often overlooked because we talk so much about Dipender Singh Airee. But Kushal Bhurtel is nearly as good a fielder as Dipender Singh Airee. In fact, the two of them are both world-class fielders. Rohit Paudel in his own right as well is right the way up there. So Sandeep Jura take a very good catch that he made look easy down at long on as well. Nepal simply outfielded, out-hunted, outran them between the wickets, and they out-wanted the West Indies throughout the course of this contest. And I think back to so many of the famous associate victories over full members down the years, there's sometimes been the occasional moment of fortune, but for Nepal to do it by outskilling their opposition, albeit missing the likes, you can think of some of the big names that aren't here for the West Indies. Absolutely, you particularly think of the captain Shea Hope in this format, what a big miss he is, but Sharfane Rutherford and so many others who aren't here. Mario Shepherd would have been a big boost for the West Indies too, but there's plenty of world-class players and a huge amount of young talent in this Caribbean side. So for Nepal to outskill them in all 3 departments, I thought was really exceptional. I just feel the way in which they fielded, and it's almost it was compounded to double value for a couple of reasons, because they fielded so well that every 2 was being turned into 1 and every 1 was being turned into a dot, whereas in the first innings Nepal's running between the wickets was so aggressive and so strong, they were turning 1s into 2s, turning dots into singles. So if you look at the margin of victory in the end, 19 runs, fielding in many ways proved the difference between the 2 sides, and Akil Hussain said as much to me in the post-match presentation. Time for a bit of peppermint tea here. I think I'm going to be posting this unedited. I'm not sure I can do any editing, but yeah, these are all just my very raw thoughts at the end of an emotional evening. Emotional for many reasons. Lovely to hear from Chatter Bahadur Chand and Paris Kadka in the pre-match ceremony. I think everyone from the Cricket Association of Nepal. I know Binod Das is here, Paudel, everyone involved, all of the team, Banu. The job they have done, quite remarkable. To be hosting a series, this entire series very much hosted by the Cricket Association of Nepal, even though it's here in Sharjah. So for them to do that with great support from the Sharjah Cricket Stadium, who do a brilliant job at hosting so much cricket. They've done it more than anyone. Over 300 internationals. They're the Guinness World Record holder. I think it's over 250 one-day internationals now, but over nearly 350, I think, cross formats. It's a Trojan effort. It's been a huge effort, particularly given what happened over the course of the last few weeks towards the start of the month in Nepal. So they deserve huge credit. The players deserve huge credit, and yeah, on a personal level, it's been a real honour to be here. And I've had so many messages from so many people. I met so many people this evening in the crowd tonight, and as always, the kindness and the joyous messages, and yeah, you guys always stop me in your tracks. The love and joy that you show me, so thank you, and Dandavad for that. I wasn't able to go up into the main stands, but just in the VIP section, I must have met, I don't know, 300 or 400 people today. People who travelled to be there, not just from within the UAE, but other parts of the Gulf. People who'd flown in from Nepal, and yeah, there's something pretty special about the nation of Nepal and this great sport of ours. So yeah, great honour to be a part of it there. But on with the second innings. I thought Nepal bowled really, really well. One of the great blessings that can be a curse depending upon how you manage it is the depth of Nepal's bowling options. They have 7, 8, if not 9 players who could bowl in any one 11. We've seen them regularly use 7, sometimes use 8, and I think on one occasion even use 9 bowlers in the same match. And I thought all of them were exceptionally good today. Sampal Kami is the one who you look at the figures of and say, okay, well, he didn't have a great day, 4 overs, none for 43, but he was bowling the tricky overs, and really to bowl 3 from the same end right towards the death with the ball skidding on nicely wasn't easy. Karen KC, 3 overs, 1 for 17, exceptional. But really the stars of the show were the spinners. Dipender Singh Airee, Lalit Rajbanshi, Rohit Paudel himself, and then again the star of the show, again against a full member nation, Kushal Malla. They just can't quite get a handle on his slightly unorthodox and slightly mysterious release points. He bowls at a very good pace. He was a medium pace bowler when he was younger. He comes in off that kind of funny run up that's almost like a medium pacer. Has a nice little Google, doesn't turn it too much, but he watches the batter very cleverly. And I think the batter's rhythms and kind of what they want to do is get used to a release point, get set, and look to hit boundaries, particularly off the spinners. But Bhurtel, apart from that final delivery, of his spell where the captain Akil Hussain hit him for a big 6, he was untouchable. I think up to that point he had 2 for 11, finished with 2 for 17 from his 4 overs. Very similar figures to the 4 for 19 that he took against South Africa. He was very much in the running for the Player of the Match award, particularly with that outstanding run out that he got. Everything going with it I was referring to a long time ago now. I've drifted off on a tangent, as I often do. He hit one stump to run out Kyle Mayers. He also then took the most remarkable catch to seal the win that we haven't really focused on or talked about on the broadcast, because everyone was just swept up in the victory at that point. It was a juggling, tumbling effort out there at long off. Like I said, Jura took a very good catch as well. We had the surreal dismissal of the debutant Bidaisee, who was trotting his stumps when facing Kushal Malla, going too deep in the crease. And there was catches too for Dipender Singh Airee, and the most brilliant athleticism by the Tiger to affect the run out, to even turn that into an opportunity. I don't think Casey Carty, who was run out for 16, could quite believe how quickly he made that ground 3 or 4 yards to his left and then loaded up for a throw without really any change in terms of his footwork and the speed. The perfect throw as well over the top to Asif Sheikh. That was a crucial run out. I know a couple of catches went down, and we did have a twister turn or two in the latter stages, the sort of 17th, 18th over, as the wheels came off a little bit. There was always going to be a nervy moment or two. I referred to it quite a bit in between the 12th and the 16th overs, when the game was moving inexorably in Nepal's favour, that really it was going to be a battle above the eyes, and the mind was going to have to be the thing that Nepal accustomed themselves to being in that winning position and finding out a way to win comfortably. Stuart Law, a special mention for him. He's going to be ever so proud of what his side have achieved. I think he's really enjoyed coming into this role, and I think the credit he deserves for recalling Kushal Malla, getting him back involved in the setup. I thought that was the one big omission. I was on the record as saying that repeatedly from the T20 squad that went to Scotland. He did quite well down in the top end series, particularly that 50. I think he made that against Pakistan, 59 that was, down in the top end. Started to show how impressive a cricketer he is and how impressive a young man he is. He's still so young as well. So his innings today, alongside Paudel's, were the two standouts for me. But then the full team bowling effort, maybe the only sour note, that injury to Nandan Yadav, we are not exactly certain. I heard Stuart Law say in the post-match press conference that I was just watching that it's likely they will rest him for Monday and Tuesday. We may not see Yadav again in the series, with one eye on that crucial T20 World Cup qualifier that's going to be coming up in Muscat in, well, it's very soon indeed. It's less than 2 weeks' time, because that gets going on the 8th of October. So maybe time to stay a little level as a Nepal fan, and I know it's hard on an evening as historic as this one, but maybe just start thinking and dreaming about maybe a series victory, but also realise there's bigger challenges ahead. And the depth and the quality in the associate game, with those 9 sides battling out for 3 spots, I don't think you can rule any of those 9 teams out. Even you might look at some of the sides from East Asia Pacific, Papua New Guinea having a hard time, Japan stepping up to this grade, and Samoa for the first time into a regional qualifier. You might look at them and think, well, hold on, they're not going to be able to qualify. I think that Samoan side could be the surprise package of that tournament. Oman on home soil will be very tough. Mohammed Wasim and all the power that the UAE side have will be the favourites for me potentially there in Muscat, and they'll be looking for revenge from 2 years ago. But if Nepal play well, they continue to play this great brand of cricket that they're developing under Stuart Law, I think there's no doubt that they'll be thinking about back-to-back T20 World Cups. That's the bigger prize. But for the moment, I think let's all allow ourselves to have a dream and to maybe think about what could be a series win over the West Indies. They'll have 2 chances to do it, on Monday and on Tuesday. For those who couldn't be there tonight, or well, yesterday now at this point, I'm in the early hours of the morning recording this, do try and get to Sharjah if you're anywhere in the UAE, or if there's any way possible to come and experience that atmosphere in person, because the crowd, I think it was about 6,000, maybe a little bit more than that came into Sharjah tonight. Many of the Sharjah administrators who have done a lot of work there, a lot of commentary there at that great ground, they said to me they couldn't believe the scales of noise, and they've had some incredible crowds from Bangladesh and Afghanistan. The passion, the joy, and then the occasional moment of silence. Even though the brilliance of the Nepali fielders, the best catch of the day belonged to Kareem Agor with a quite remarkable diving effort in the deep that just you could then hear pin drop silence. That was to dismiss Sundeep Jura. Jason Holder picked up another wicket, and Gora's track record at doing that for the United States of America. I think we'll probably see him debut on either Monday or Tuesday. West Indies are going to have to find a way to come back. There's a lot of talent in that team, and they will no doubt be smarting, because this defeat back home in the Caribbean will create a lot of headlines. There's no doubt about that. They do have one eye on that test series that's coming up, but the senior coaching staff, Darren Sammy, remember, not here, Floyd Reefer, Ravi Rampal, the batting and bowling coach, they're all with the test team in India. But Otis Gibson is here, and I think this will be a real shock. I'd expect a reaction from the West Indies. On Monday, they didn't play that badly. They were simply outskilled by a highly impressive Nepal side. Still trying to take it all in here. It's close to 20 minutes we've been talking. Now, one last sup of this beautiful peppermint tea. And I guess finish up by saying thank you. I just think of the journey cricket in Nepal has been on across the course of the last 30 years. Their first ever real internationals in the ACC trophy back in 1996, and the legends that have helped kind of build a platform and drive the path for the modern players to shine upon. And I know how much it'll mean to Shakti Gauchan, to Basanta Regmi, we saw Binod Das there working there tonight. I know how much it meant to him, and to Paris Kadke himself, et al. Gainendra Malla, of course, part of the coaching staff. So a special moment for those that have played for Nepal historically. They'll be very proudly looking on. You could see that in Paresh Lahani and Sharad Vasakar's eyes today. I don't think I've got any more to say, but just thank you. Really special day. And maybe just a final message. I just put out a bit of a Twitter thread about it. Another great sign for the associate game, and as to why we should grow our game and continue to evolve the sport, get larger World Cups, get more and more teams, giving them opportunities and fixtures and funding. If they do get those opportunities, you can see how good these teams can be. So it's time for bed for me. I'll see if I can post this up first thing in the morning. Luckily it's a rest day tomorrow, then we'll go back to back on Monday, Tuesday. Thanks as well so much to the broadcast team. I thought it was absolutely exceptional, the coverage. Just watch back some of the highlights there. A really, really world-class broadcast, and when you've got Ian Bishop and Carlos Brathwaite alongside you, you know you're in amazing hands, and great credit to those two men as well, because they will have been hurting this evening as proud West Indians, but they were hugely complimentary, and rightly so, about an incredible young Nepali side. So it's good night from me. I want to say thank you so much. Hopefully you can enjoy this moment, and I'll see you Monday night for what will be game 2 of the Unity Cup. It's good night from me. Dandavad.